Mayor Lori Lightfoot continues to hammer home the importance of transparency, especially when it comes to police misconduct.
But tomorrow, CBS 2 political investigator Dana Kozlov has learned city lawyers are heading back to court to try to keep hundreds of police misconduct records from ever being released. Dana, this began over one man's fight to clear his name.
Yeah, Brad and Erica, it began with a public records request by this man, which the city ignored. Then the city offered him $500,000 to make that request go away. But there was never a payout, and now those city records remain sealed.
The city's commitment to transparency over its police accountability systems is not real. It is fake.
That sums up Attorney Jared Kozloglad's position on City Hall's commitment to combating police misconduct. Kozloglad represents Charles Green, convicted at age 16 for taking part in a 1985 quadruple murder in a building that once stood here. In 2009, Green was released from prison after a judge ruled critical testimony wasn't allowed at his trial. He later filed this FOIA for 5 decades of closed Chicago police misconduct records to help him discover evidence of his innocence. The city never responded. Green sued to get those records released, and that's when city attorneys made an offer.
They were trying to pay Mr. Green $500,000 to go away from his request for records.
That was in July when we first reported this story. There was a finance committee hearing on the settlement, and out of necessity, Green was ready to take it. But some aldermen were concerned a payout would keep those records sealed, which they opposed.
Are we missing an opportunity for transparency?
So Finance Committee Chairman Scott Wagaspak drafted this ordinance outlining how those records would be released. The ordinance has gone nowhere since. Kozloglad says the offer disappeared, and city attorneys are now headed to appeals court to keep those records under wraps.
They are speaking out of both sides of their mouth, going to the public, telling them that they want to be transparent, and fighting transparency at every possible place.
But Mayor Lori Lightfoot says 4 years of those records have been made public.
We're continuing to work on a process to go back even further, so there's no lack of transparency.
She indicates the city's fight isn't over the records release, but the cumbersome task of actually releasing them.
But I won't comment further since this is an active piece of litigation.
I spoke today to Alderman Scott Wagaspak's chief of staff. He's the head of the Finance Committee, and to the head of the City Council's Public Safety Committee. They say that ordinance, which is a joint ordinance, is going to be discussed later this month. They are trying to schedule a hearing to move that ordinance forward, but that would be 7 months after it was first introduced. Brad?
So if the case has already gone to an appeals court, it means clearly the city is fighting pretty hard to keep those misconduct records from being released. Is the settlement offer still on the table somewhere here?
There are a lot of questions. You know, Charles Green's attorney says, as far as he understands it, that $500,000 offer is dead. There has been no discussion with the city since September about that offer, and he says he will head into court tomorrow virtually to continue to fight to get those misconduct records released. He says it is all about accountability. Brad?
CBS 2 political investigator Dana Kozlov. Dana, thank you.